Today's date is February 21st, 2009. My name is Bill Clutter. I'm Director of Investigations for the Downstate Illinois Innocence Project at the University of Illinois at Springfield. We're located today at Applebee's, outside of Applebee's in Riverview, Florida. And standing with me today is Ann Manning. Ann, do I have your permission today to audio and video record this interview?
Yes, you do.
All right. And could I just have you spell your last name, please?
M-A-N-N-I-N-G.
All right. And your date of birth?
5/31/59. All
right. And you're the same individual who was formerly known as Ann Bramblett in 1989, who was interviewed by the Sangamon County Sheriff's Department relating to the death investigation of Melissa Koontz. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And let me just have you speak loudly so that the video can capture your interview today.
Okay.
And I contacted you by mail. Last week I sent you 2 interview reports from the Sangamon County Sheriff's Department. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And did that help refresh your memory as to the events that you witnessed in August of 1989?
Yes.
All right. I'm sorry, June of 1989. On June 24th, 1989, according to these reports, you were driving south on the Waverly Blacktop Road. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you had been to a wedding reception in Springfield?
Yes.
And where was the wedding reception?
It was at Dago's on South 15th Street.
Okay. And that's 2170 South 15th Street, according to the report of Detective Vos. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you were interviewed twice. Once was, it looks like the first interview was on June 26th of 1989, 2 days after Melissa Koontz disappeared.
Correct.
And it was Detective John Pinneo who talked with you then?
Yes.
And then the day Melissa Koontz's body was found on July 1st, 1989, you were interviewed a second time by Detective Vos. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. And where did those interviews take place? Did they have you come to the sheriff's office to talk to you?
No. The first interview took place at my work at Franklin Life on 6th Street. And the second interview took place at my apartment in Waverly.
Okay, and that was Detective Vos, the second interview at your apartment?
Yes.
All right. And what did you see that night that caused the detectives to interview you? I assume you responded to the Crime Stoppers or some type of information that was...
No, actually, I was at work, and I just came to the realization that the two might have been connected. I didn't give it a second thought until then. And I came to the realization that they might have been connected, and the police were called, and when I told them what I had seen, they immediately came over to interview me.
Okay, and can you describe what you saw that night?
We were driving, I was a passenger in a car, and the driver was going southbound on the Waverly Blacktop Road. And there was a car in front of us that had was slowing down and pulled over half on the road, half on the side, and slowed down to a stop, and we had to slow down ourselves to avoid hitting it, and then we just went around the car and passed it.
And this was sometime after you left the wedding reception in Springfield and shortly before you got home in Waverly?
Yes, that is correct.
And according to Detective Vos's report, when you got to your apartment in Waverly, you noticed the time was 11:55 p.m. Is that correct?
10:55.
I'm sorry, 10:55.
Yes.
And the report indicated that your clock was usually about 5 minutes fast.
That is correct.
So you would have arrived, according to this report, sometime around 10:45?
10:45, 10:50, yes.
And did you identify the person you were with that night?
The person that was in the car with me?
Yes.
Yes, his name was Don Cox.
Okay. And what was your reaction when you saw this car ahead of you slow to a stop and stop in the middle, stop in the roadway?
My reaction was like, what kind of idiot would do something like that? That was my thought. That part I do remember.
And according to the report of Detective Pinneo, you described this as either a dark blue or black small economy type Ford vehicle.
Yes.
And was that the description you gave to Detective Pinneo?
Yes, it is.
And it appears in the second interview that on July 1st, Detective Vos showed you some photographs of the vehicle, and I'll hand you a contact sheet of photos that were taken of Melissa Koontz's vehicle. Give me 1 second. I'll have you take a look at that. Are those photos the same photos you were shown by detectives in 1989?
Yes.
And is that the car depicted in the photograph? Is that similar to the car you saw that night?
It's very similar to the car that I saw.
Okay. And where was the what was the approximate location on the Waverly Blacktop Road where you saw this vehicle stop?
About 3 miles south of Old 36. The Still Tavern, and then it would have been about 3 miles south of that.
Okay, about 3 miles south of that. And when this car stopped and slowed down, did you see any other vehicles around the vehicle?
No, I did not.
Was there anyone standing in front of the vehicle waving their hands for this vehicle to stop?
I did not see anybody.
Okay. Would you have seen a person if a person had...
I'm sure I would have seen, because the headlights, I would have seen a person.
All right. And as you indicated that that the headlights remained on.
Yes.
Were you able to tell how many people were in the vehicle?
No, I was not.
Was the dome light on?
No.
Did you, according to the statement, and I'm referring to the first interview by Detective Pinneo, you indicated that as you continued southbound, the vehicle was still sitting there as you lost sight of it. Did you turn around to look at the vehicle?
Yes.
And it was still on the side of the road?
Correct.
Are there any other details that you can recall, or these reports might refresh your memory?
There's no other details I can recall. What I stated in 1989 is still what I would state today.
Okay, if you were called to testify in a post-conviction proceeding, your testimony would be the same as what's written in the two type statements that
Correct,
you've reviewed?
it would be, yes.
Were you ever subpoenaed to testify in the case of Thomas McMillen?
No.
Were you ever contacted by any attorneys representing Mr. McMillen?
No.
Any other investigators?
No.
Did you have any contact with anyone since after the last interview by Detective Vos?
No.
What was the attitude of detectives during the time they interviewed you?
Very professional.
Did they give you any indication that they felt that this information was important to them?
They felt it was important, yes.
Did they indicate why they felt this information was important.
Because the description of the vehicle and the timeline that I had given them was similar to the timeline that they had gathered from other people and other witnesses.
Well, and when you were following the developments, you lived in Waverly. Did you know the Koontz family or Melissa Koontz?
Yes, not personally, but I did know of them. I would know them to say hi in the street, but I didn't have a personal relationship with them.
But you lived in the same community. You followed the news of the investigation when
Yes.
she was a missing person?
Yes.
And based on what you were learning from the media, did you feel that the car you saw was her vehicle that evening?
Yes.
Do you, and let me just go back to the initial statement. It looks like that when Detective Pinneo interviewed you the second time, I'm sorry, Detective Vos, on July 1st, he asked you for some more details about your travel after leaving Dago's, after leaving the wedding reception.
Yes, he did.
And approximately what time would you have left the wedding reception?
Somewhere between 9:30 and 10 o'clock. Somewhere in that area.
Okay, and then where did you go after leaving the wedding reception?
I went to Lori Zepp's house on the north side of town, and she wasn't there, so we stopped at McDonald's on North Grand to get something to eat before proceeding back to Waverly.
On 9th and North Grand?
Yes.
And where did Lori Zepp live?
It would have been north of that, past the fairgrounds.
Past the Illinois State Fairgrounds?
Yes.
And then after you went through the drive-up window, according to the report, is that correct?
Yes.
And after you left McDonald's, which direction would you have gone?
We would have traveled west on North Grand. I'm trying to imagine my directions here, and then turned on South 6th Street, traveling south, gone through Springfield, and then got on 72 going west again to New Berlin, and then taking the New Berlin Blacktop home.
Okay. All right. One last thing I'd like to do. Will you affirm that the statement you've given today is the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I will.
And just as if you were called in a courtroom to swear under oath under the penalty of perjury, do you declare this statement today to be the truth?
Yes.
All right. And would you make yourself available, if needed, to testify if a judge would require you to appear personally?
Yes.
All right. This will conclude the interview. Thank you.